Wow, a manga editing video? We haven't had that in a while, huh? It's been over 2 months since the last page of my manga, and I kinda felt an itch to pick it up again for a change. Feel free to pause the video now and give it a quick read so you know the context we're working with today. But, just a quick warning, if you're new to my content, this manga is not safe for work. Alright, so here we go, empty page. We start with the panel layout, and this page is supposed to start with a small time skip and scenery change, because Kana, our protagonist, is now talking to her sister Yue in her room. So, to give the layout a bit of a breather room for the scenery change, I'm going to add some dead space on the top and some small panel-like boxes to provide some visual keys that signify the passing of time. And because we're establishing a new scenery here, I want the first real panel to have a big shot of both sisters together on Yue's bed, so that the reader instantly knows what's happening and who is talking to whom. So here we go, big panel, filling the entire width of the page. At the bottom, we will add some smaller panels, providing some close-ups of the two girls, with a little back and forth between their conversation. And there is no real action here other than dialogue, but I want to add at least some visual storytelling and provide context for their relation with each other and their personalities. So for these panels, we mostly just need different angles of the same scenery, with a focus on the heads and maybe some small posture changes. Okay, now that we know what we need, I'm gonna load up ForgeUI and generate some images to test our layout, and I will do a cut here and continue this video once I have them. Alright, here we go. For our establishing shot, I generated this image here, which is a great starting point. I like the casual and nonchalant pose of Yue. There's also some dead space at the bottom of the picture that will make it easy to edit in Kana as well. But first, let's extend that image a bit to the right so that we have enough space. And a quick manual sketch is fine. We are going to inpaint every single part of the image anyway, so no reason to go into detail just yet. Next, I need a single image of Kana. And for this shot, I felt like her lying on her stomach would instantly sell the relationship between the two of them. She feels relaxed and at home talking to her little sister, and by having her lying on the bed while Yue is sitting, taking up much less space, it adds that little element of psychology that immediately tells the reader that Yue likes having her over and wants to see her happy, even if it's to her own detriment. And by the way, I used a background removal tool I reviewed on my channel quite a while ago to remove the background and save some time with composition here. And we haven't started the inpainting process yet, so this can all still be a bit rough and sketchy. I also added some brush strokes at the bottom to give her some shadow so that it feels like she actually belongs to the scene. And as you might have noticed, the shadows are not perfectly correct, but at least they are on the correct side. So I hope we can fix the inconsistencies with the shadows during the inpainting process. So let's go back to our layout and put the first sketch of our image back into the manga panel. And we're just checking composition of the page here, so no reason to fix the image details just yet. And I did some quick cropping at the top to allow Yue's head to extend beyond the panel for a more interesting page layout. Alright, this fits quite well, so let's continue with the bottom panels. And I need 2 more pictures of Yue and 1 more picture of Kana in basically the same pose, so we can keep the prompts mostly as they are. We just want different viewing angles, so I adjusted the prompt for the different directions and the canvas sizes in Forge, and yeah. So, after putting them all into the panels, we immediately find out what we need to pay attention to in the inpainting process. And this is why I specifically take the time to lay out my page before starting with the inpainting. Because what do we see here? First, we don't need to care about the backgrounds because we have close-ups anyway. Second, we don't need to pay a lot of attention in terms of consistency of the sweater of Yue, because that print on Yue's sweater in that one picture is not even on the panel. And we do not need to fix Kana's feet in this picture. What we do need to pay attention to is the waist arm of Yue in both pictures, and obviously the consistency of her haircut and glasses. Because, not gonna lie, glasses are a nightmare to keep consistent. Also, if we go a bit more into detail, we will notice that the color of the shirt is a bit off in this image, so we need to fix that. And we also need to add the cleavage back to the top image. In terms of facial expressions, this is the point in which we need to think about them and take notes. And I already storyboarded the dialogue for this page, so this is how I know exactly what expressions I need. But I won't show the dialogue just yet, just to not spoiler too much. On the top image, both Kana and Yue are talking, so both need an open mouth. Kana's facial expression also needs to look a bit more worried. Down here, Yue needs a serious expression and an open mouth, while Kana in this panel looks sad, looking down, and in the last panel, I need Yue to look mostly serious and neutral in her facials, which will be fun to provide the contrast to the next page, in which she will show the more mischievous side of her personality. Alright, so let's take a look at the inpainting process. I won't go through every single iteration and failed generations here, because I don't want this video to be multiple hours long. So I'm just gonna show you the editing steps, the milestones, if you will. I started by inpainting the back layer of the composed image, bed, legs, hands, etc. And surprisingly, getting the feet to look right was much harder than the hands, because semi-covered poses are always a problem. So when the annoying parts were done, I applied some sketching to fix consistency issues with the character. And in this case, it was basically just Yue's size and basically nothing else. Poor little girl also received some of that unfortunate genetic juice of her sister. But good for her, she got away with just being big by normal human standards and does not have to deal with having her own gravitational orbit. If you wondered why I didn't immediately prompt for a bigger chest when creating the base image, then this is because certain prompts have a tendency to impact the overall appearance of the character and not just the details. So you usually end up getting like super tall Amazonian looking body shapes with small heads and long legs. So I usually prompt the characters with a smaller chest first and then inpaint the correct shapes back in. So after inpainting the ladies, I continued with the face and cleaned up the eyes and glasses, and we're done with the background. For Kana, I had to apply a few more consistency fixes. The previous pages had a cropped part on her pink t-shirt, so I quickly resketched that. And I also adjusted the size of her hair ribbon and fixed the gravity of her bangs. And after a few steps of inpainting and adding the correct facial prompts, I got this version. And then I inpainted over some parts of the hair and the skirt to increase the resolution and detail on those. And the last step, I removed the background and manually painted some shadows and received the final image for the first panel. Awesome! The other two images of Yue didn't require a lot of steps to fix because they are very basic poses with close-ups and pretty much nothing complicated going on. So, inpaint hands, we sketched correct chest size, some color corrections, facial prompts, and done. The string on the right side of the sweater was missing, but it doesn't matter much because we already know that this part of the image is not on the panel anyway because we did the layouting of the images for the page already. Same with this version of the scene, upscaling the individual parts, resketching, inpainting the correct proportions, and color corrections. The frontal view of Kana was a bit more complicated because, again, AI is terrible at semi-covered limbs. So in the end, I ended up manually drawing most of the hands and fingers and then just inpainted with a very low denoise to bake it into the picture. So for those of you who want to learn about my fixing process, I quickly go through all the major steps I applied to this image. I feel like something is still missing. Much better. Alright, time to upgrade the page layout with our updated images and adding the speech bubbles. So what I like doing is adding a little color gradient to the background that is basically an average of the colors of the panels adjacent to them. So the bottom panels are a bit darker due to US weather. Okay, final step. I add the speech bubbles and text to my page, and the speech bubbles have a shadow and some added highlight border to make them stand out a bit more from the background. I also like to keep the speech bubble arrows tiny, but that's just my personal style choice. And with that, we have finished our new page. If you want to know what the characters are saying, you got to visit my Pixiv page in the description below. Toodles!